We're getting up. There we go. Well, hi everybody. Hopefully you can hear me. Technical difficulties. I apologize for the amount of time it took, but here we are. Aloha. So, got a couple of questions. We tried to run this off of the laptop. It didn't really work off the laptop. I guess we'll wait for a few more people. People are starting to pop in here. Make sure we're on the right place. So, sorry for the technical difficulties. Took us a little bit of time to get up and running, but here we are. So, like I said, we'll wait for just a few more people to pop on. Looks like we got some people. Hey, you got Alexa there. I gotta reach in. We're gonna do this on the computer, but it didn't work, so we're using the cell phone. All right. Hey, Nicole, how you doing? Good to see you guys. All right. So I got a couple of questions. We'll start with a couple of questions that I have here. One of the first questions on the COVID-19 is, since hospital space is limited, most people who get the virus will have to be cared for at home. We need guidance on how to best do this with the supplies that are available. What are the 5 most important steps in caring for a virus patient? Well, you know, I'm not the expert on caring for the patients. Probably the best place you can go is either the CDC, the Department of Health, the WHO. Of course, you're going to want to talk to your doctor and get some advice from the doctor. But as far as what I can tell you, I prefer to send you to reliable sources and those sources that know these things. Unemployment benefits have been expanded. Can you please explain how unemployment folks can get some help here in Hawaii? So I know that the Department of Labor has a site up there, and they've waived some of the different things. If you go to the State of Hawaii Department of Labor website, there's a website there that can get you through some of those things. What is the, Alexi asked, what is the reason for the quarantine? Now, we got to make sure that we're talking about 2 different things, because this next question says, why is it until April 30th? So one is a quarantine, one is a stay-at-home order, and those 2 are different things. That the quarantine comes into play a couple of different ways. One of the ways it comes into play is if you get off a plane coming from the mainland, then you're going to be quarantined to your home or to a hotel for a certain amount of times. The stay-at-home order actually keeps you at home until April 30th, with some exceptions of things that you can do, and certain people are essential workers, and so there's 2 different things that we're talking about. One's stay-at-home, one's a quarantine. Now, the reason for the quarantine is, you know, this COVID-19, this virus is very serious. I know that we've heard our president and we've heard some other people say that, oh, you know, 80% of the people will be fine, but there's going to be a lot of people that aren't fine. And if you don't believe me, you just have to look to places like New York right now that are having some major issues. I mean, we're talking about Spain and China and Italy last week. This week it's in our own country, and the numbers are, you know, piling up. Not to make anybody fear or worry. I mean, right now we're probably in the best place in the world to be here in Hawaii. If you think about it, we have geographic distance, we have an ocean dividing us, and now we have, you know, the governor's put in place this order of quarantine. When people come to Hawaii, they're going to have to quarantine for a certain amount of time. That should keep us a lot safer than other places. And then we have the other things. We have people, hopefully, that will be following through. And if we follow through and do all the things that we're supposed to, we should come out of this relatively okay. You know, our island has some real serious issues when it comes to healthcare. Before the virus even came into play, we had a 40% shortage of doctors. And a lot of the doctors that we have here on this island are older doctors, are older than 60 years old. which is one of those areas that we really worry about. So, it is important that we are all kind of keeping calm heads, but also following the rules, keeping social distance, washing our hands, doing all the right things. And so the reason for the quarantine or the stay-at-home order, or both of those, is so that we can flatten the curve. And a lot of people have talked about what is flattening the curve. If you think about this, on this island, I think we have 40 ventilators, and a lot of these people who are going into the ERs, they need ventilators to push air into their lungs. And if you think of that as kind of the level right there, we want to keep the number of patients going into our healthcare facilities at a manageable rate underneath this line right here. In New York, we're seeing that they've started to climb over the line, and it's spiking. So what we're trying to do is flatten the curve, keep it below the capacity, and so we get through this and save lives. Because at the end of the day, it really is about saving lives, keeping our families safe, keeping our friends and everybody here safe. So let me take a look at some more of these questions. My chiropractor is from Vince. My chiropractor is in Las Vegas. He comes home Sunday or Monday. Will he be told to quarantine? Yes, he will be told to quarantine. Everybody coming from the mainland will be told to quarantine. Since he lives here, he'll be quarantined in his own home. For those of you who watched the press release this afternoon, we heard that there's very few people coming back. They give people forms, and hopefully we're going to be watching to make sure that people are following the rules, staying indoors, so we don't overwhelm our healthcare workers. And I can't stress enough, we have great people in our healthcare here. I know the hospitals are working really hard to make sure that we're safe. It's our job to make sure that we keep them safe as well. So moving down, as an elected county official, how are you currently handling the COVID-19 coronavirus crisis in your office? It's a question for Doug. Doug, it's a great question. We've been doing quite a bit. I've kind of been nerding out, I guess, a little bit on this coronavirus. Even when it was in China, I started seeing what was going to happen, and we asked to find what kind of documents that we had in place. We actually had a pandemic plan from 2010 and a continuation of operations plan that was built in 2010 that needed some work. And so we started pulling that out. I think that was the last time it was updated, trying to get ahead of the curve to figure out what we could do. So in our office, we've now gone to a skeleton crew. We're having our employees come in shifts because we are all essential workers. The court system is kind of open, kind of closed. It's closed for most of the things, but it's still open for the prosecutors, and there's still cases for in jails and things like that. And so we've been working very closely with the courts. When we saw what was happening, we started asking the courts to take some pretty big steps. One of the steps that we've asked them to do is to really make sure that we stop the cattle call. Last week, I found myself in a situation where I was writing to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court and telling him that, what we're doing is crazy. And, you can't have 100 people in the court at one time. And that's kind of what we were on a collision course to have. So you saw that the courts have changed their hours. It was great because Chief Justice Rechtenwald got right back to us, told us that there would be changes, and we've seen some pretty big changes happening at the court. We've been working with the jails, and as a prosecutor, it's really difficult to look at letting people out of jails. But if you think about our Hawaii Community Correctional Center, we have a building that's built to hold 206 people with a max capacity of 226, and we have about 400 and something prisoners, defendants who are in that jail. You add to that another 150 people that work in the correctional facility, and that's a really scary thing. And so we've had to take some steps to make sure that we're not letting everybody go, but there's some people that are less dangerous than others, and we're trying to keep just the most dangerous people in our jails. So we've been working with the Department of Public Safety, we've been working with the police department, we've been working with the judiciary, and other partners to really make sure that we don't have a situation. Because if you think about this for a second, if there was a virus that got out in that jail, you'd have our healthcare system overwhelmed all at once. And so we're not there yet, but we're working on that. We've been working with the police, and having to come up with different ideas of how we're going to do law enforcement, who we're going to be arresting and charging, which cases we can look at for what's called info charging at a later date. We don't want to let people get away with crimes. We have to hold people accountable. But we also have to be very careful. So we've been working in that area. Of course, in my own office, we've had to decide, how we're going to do things. So we've closed our office right now to the public, but prior to last week, we put a sign up on our door saying, if you have a cold, cough, or anything like that, we ask you not to come in. We're actually not going to let you in. We turned away meetings unless you had an appointment. And so we've had to do quite a bit of things. Other things, as a county official, I've been sitting at the cabinet meetings, watching what's happening there, going to civil defense when they have those meetings. And prior to our Big Island legislators and our council people sending the mayor a letter, I sent him a letter saying that we need to change course, because this is a serious thing we're going through. And so let me go back to the questions here, and I apologize. I see a lot of questions that are coming up on the screen, but because I'm doing it on my phone, they're kind of far away, so hopefully I can do a better job with that. Do we have the capacity on this island to return to prosperity quickly after this crisis is abated? I think we can return to prosperity. I have great hopes that we will. And looking at the 2010 plan, there is some things that are put in place there for us to, work on. But I think there's other things that we can do on this island that, will make it easier. We've gone through disasters before and we've rebounded. We have a county of people that live on this island that have worked together, that know how to work together. We can't make it about county. This is everybody. We're all in this together, and we will need to do a lot of things. One, we'll need to make sure that our construction businesses, our construction industry is up and running. Those shovel-ready jobs. There's going to be a lot of federal funds that are out there. We as county are going to need to change the way we do some things and work more closely with our community to make sure that our community is able to get some of the funds so that they can also build their businesses and things like that up. All right, let me keep on moving down these questions. Sarah says, why has Mitch been silent on Mayor Kim's failure to protect this community? I don't believe I've been silent. If you've been watching the videos, I've been trying to make people aware that, we have some issues. This is very serious. Take it very seriously. I don't believe in going out and trying to attack people either. I think we need to work together. We can have differences of opinion, and I do differ from the mayor's approach to this. I would have taken the approach more closely to what Mayor Kawakami on Kauai has done and what they've done on Oahu and Maui. Our island has some things that just make us a little bit more vulnerable, and that's our healthcare system. And we need to really do all we can to protect our healthcare workers. I sound like a broken record, but it's not that I haven't. I don't believe in vocally going slamming people. I think that's the problem with our country right now, is we've had too much of that, where people are just playing politics about this and that. It's about doing the right thing. And at the end of the day, on this issue, it's really about saving lives. Sarah asked some more questions. If Mayor Kim were liable for crimes during this crisis, would Mitch be willing to investigate and prosecute his friend Harry Kim? I've had to investigate, and if people are friends, or even in our county, a lot of people ask, why do you conflict out of cases? We've had conflict cases when people are related to the county government that runs our office. There'd probably be a conflict of interest, but we would probably send it to another island for investigation. Right now, we're doing the same thing with a councilman on Kauai. So that's the job of the prosecutor. We're kind of like a referee in a football game. We see a foul, we throw the flag, and we call the thing. So I'd have no problem if people are violating the law, making sure that the law is upheld. No one is above the law. What would Mitch have done differently if he were mayor during this crisis, since the other counties' mayors were willing to enforce curfews or stay-at-home orders while Harry Kim remained stubborn? And so exactly what I said earlier, I would have enforced the law. I would have done pretty much what has been done on Oahu and Kauai. I think I would have put the curfew in place. I understand that we are different. We are a bigger island. We have a lot more space. But at the end of the day, once our healthcare system is overrun, then we're in real trouble and people are going to die. And it comes to people's lives. And I think we have to do everything we can to protect our family, our friends, and even our visitors coming to this island. Okay. Tom says, there are those people in the community that are pushing back against social distancing procedures that are set in place. What would you say to these skeptics for them to be patient, being a known amount of time that the crisis might drag on? When you look at New York City right now, that's a place that people would have never thought would be overrun. I was watching something on YouTube where they had a truck with a refrigeration unit in it there to take away dead bodies. People don't think this could happen to them. You look at Louisiana. Louisiana is the fastest growing number, I guess, anywhere in the world right now where they're going. We have to pay attention to what's happening in other places in the world. We don't have to be afraid, but we have to be mindful and understand that if we don't act, we could be in a lot of trouble. And right now, what's great, like I said earlier, is that we are acting. We have geographic distance between us and the rest of the world. We have people who are having to quarantine. We have very few people who are coming in, and we've set in place some rules and regulations that if people follow, if we work as a team, we can really make a huge difference and get back sooner than probably a lot of other places, back on our feet. It's going to be a little bit of pain, but it's like getting a shot sometimes. Sometimes the ounce of prevention is worth the pound of cure. All right, Tom has another one. Not only is this crisis affecting the physical health of our citizens, it's affecting their financial health. Do you believe that the county should declare a tax holiday on property taxes collected in Hawaii County? This would create a shot in the arm for small businesses and might even help individual homeowners with mortgages to stay above water. I think we're going to have to look at all sorts of things. Hopefully the federal stimulus will help us. We may have to go looking to some of these things like tax holidays for some of our citizens, because there are people that are hurting here. I think everything needs to be put on the table, and we need to look at everything. So, Franz says, it would be nice if someone would address the incorrect perception regarding face masks. Even the N94 regular paper masks are only helpful for people that are sick, not as protection. N94 and similar masks only help as protection if they are properly fit by a professional. Otherwise, they only provide a false and dangerous sense of security. I think there's a lot of people out there actually talking about this, Franz, that these face masks don't really get everything in, and I know that there's a lot of efforts to get the appropriate face masks. We're working, this morning I reached out to a group of high school students and other people that are in the STEM area, science, technology, engineering, and math, Next Tech, and I started asking if there are ways that we can maybe use 3D printers that are available and have some of our students help build face shields for our hospital workers to maybe not protect against everything, but keep the masks that they have clean and free of other kinds of germs when people are coughing on them. So yeah, we have to be mindful that just making a face mask out of bandanas may not be helpful for our healthcare workers. We really need to make sure that they have the right supplies and materials, that the personal protection equipment that they need. And that's why I keep on harping on this, but it's really important that we protect our healthcare professionals here in Hawaii County, because we're already limited starting at the beginning. Excuse me. Not Corona, sorry, just a little spit coming down the wrong tube. Nobody seems to address the issue that the U.S. had 34,000 people dying of regular flu last season and 60,000 previous seasons, and nobody requested quarantine. I think this is a lot different than the regular flu, and the regular flu hits a few people, and that 34 or 60,000 in a year seems like a big number, but in a matter of weeks, the United States has gone to 1,000, and unfortunately, that number is going to keep on climbing. And hopefully, people will follow the rules. They will wash their hands, do good personal hygiene. Socially distance themselves, in other words, keeping at least 6 feet away from other people. Go with that attitude and that belief that everybody has it. I have it, so go with that. So you don't want to pass it on to everybody. I don't have it now, haven't been tested, but you have to have that belief and kind of that mindset. To make sure that we're protecting all of our people, because we all know kapuna, we all know people. And what's scary now is that we're starting to see younger people who are coming down with these things. So very, very scary. Okay, let's see. Let me go on. I'm going to see, I got some questions here. How do you feel about possibility of this, Damon? Hey, Damon. Legalizing gambling in Hawaii is a means to stimulate the economy after the COVID-19. So, one of the things, we have gambling laws here that could probably be changed in some ways. I mean, I see that some of the things that they want to do, we don't want maybe the casino kinds of things. For gambling, a lot of people have, I don't know, like you have the Boy Scouts and other groups that want to do fundraisers by not having raffles and things like that. I think we need to look at maybe changing some of those things, allow maybe church bingos and some of those things that bring people back together and get them going together. But I don't know about actually going and doing a Las Vegas kind of thing, especially after what we're seeing in Las Vegas and other places. Let me see. Shopo got your back, Ro. Thanks. So someone's saying the Big Island is very vulnerable because of our isolation and lack of resources, especially in our healthcare care system. Yeah, I think I've been saying that as well. Let me go take some other of these questions, and I'll see if we can maybe get a better way of looking at some of these things. Ham operators provide absolutely free service to all of our communities throughout the country and local law enforcement agencies, departments of emergency management agencies, and all civil defense agencies on multiple levels, especially during hurricanes, tsunamis, and now during the coronavirus pandemic. Unfortunately, all ham radios require the use of antennas of different types and sizes within reason for different frequency bands, but those goals are usually the same: to move the message forward during the training in actual emergencies. The homeowners associations or house rules seem to be completely unnecessary and most of the time for cosmetic purposes. Ham operators train consistently in emergency communications under FEMA's guidelines in order to protect lives and to protect personal and public property. This is especially true during recent volcanic eruptions, hurricanes, and more recently during a tsunami watch issued by Pacific Tsunami Center after this week's 7.8 earthquake off of the coast of Japan, Kuril Islands. Okay, so trying to get to the question here. Amateur radio operators are always on the front lines reporting what officials can't see as tsunami waves heights, wind speeds, and rain totals during hurricanes. We've seen a rise in homeowners associations across the country and their draconian house rules, in some cases forbidding the ownership of any device that is capable of transmitting voice and data or any antennas that can transmit the same. As you know, the Hawaiian island is located over 2,600 miles from any landmass. In cases of power outages and disruption of internet services, which has happened more often than people realize. Just a few months ago, the island of Kauai lost landline and cell phone services, and it took 2 ham operators to communicate between islands and notify authorities. Okay. So I guess the question is there's something that the mayor can do about the ham operators and the homeowner association house rules, and not really sure too much about what the mayor can do about that. Those are generally things that homeowner associations, but we can take a look into that. Chris asks, the number of COVID-19 is increasing around the world. We know that it will be hard to protect our islands. We have a limited number of ICU beds, less than 40. Yes, that's what we've been talking about. Of an island for we have 40, less than 40 for an island of 200,000. Limited number of protective equipment and respirators. Is there a possibility to mobilize all individuals in the county to be more prepared? Maybe create a crisis working group. Oh, that's a great idea. So let me start with that. We have been working with different groups and trying to get them involved. I'm fortunate to be on the board of the Boys and Girls Club, and we see what a great job that they've been doing this last week, getting meals out there. That's a pretty cool thing for what's happening out there. We've been working with our faith community last week with Deputy Fire Chief Lance Uchida and the Department of Health. We actually had a couple of sessions with our faith community where they did some training for the faith, and then afterwards I was able to ask a few questions of the faith community, which were basically, what could the faith community do? And let me just go back. I've been having these meetings for over a year, and when we had the lava incident, we had the faith community come out and we asked them the same thing. And we knew that everybody was going to want to feed, but we knew also that the Salvation Army was in charge of feeding people or arranging that. And so we went around the room. We had 30 some odd faith leaders of all different faiths, put some butcher paper up on the wall, and we started asking the question, what can faith do? And they came up with some really amazing things for that incident. One of the things that they came up with was housing, and so they helped with building some of the tiny housing. They came up with ideas of laundry, a laundry service. I mean, for the people that were going to be in the shelters, they did over $10,000 in laundry service. They did entertainment, childcare, transportation. They had a whole bunch of different things that the faith community did. And this time again, when we asked the faith community what they could do, they had some really great ideas. One idea Pastor Caitlin from the Episcopal Church came up with was, if you can spare it, share it. And using their faith institutions, the brick and mortar, as places where they can hold things that people may have extra. They may have extra food. They may have extra cleaning supplies. They may have things that they know that people are going to need, because like the lava incident, this too is going to be a marathon versus a sprint. We know already that we're looking until April 30th of stay at home. We know that there's people that aren't going to be working, that we're going to need to really take care of each other if we want to, come out of this safe and healthy. And so the faith community is coming up with some great ideas. I've heard one of the people were talking about teaching people how to do live feed services. And I wish I had taken him up on that recommendation, because this is my first time I'm doing one of these live feeds. I'm realizing sometimes, wow, we thought we can just do it on the computer and I'd be able to see a lot better, but now I'm using a cell phone that's a couple of feet away, so it's hard for me even to read the questions unless I kind of come up really close and squint. But there's one of the pastors that's reaching out and saying, hey, we're willing to help teach all different faiths how to go out and do live feeds on these things. We know that during this crisis, mental health is going to be an issue, and so some of the faith groups are looking at helping people with mental health issues. And these are things that you don't have to be a church. You can be a service organization. You can be anyone wanting to help. We're today we're working with kids to see about making face shields. Like I said earlier, the Boys and Girls Clubs out there making meals, and they're not making meals just for their kids. They're making meals for kapunas and other people. There's a lot of things that we as a community will do, are doing, and I think that's really the advantage of this island. We have a great island. We have great people here, and we have people that are willing to reach out hand in hand, and well, don't go hand in hand now, 6 feet apart, but they're willing to work together to make a difference, to make this a better place. Let me take just a few more questions. A question for today's Facebook. If you were mayor, how would you use the existing county resources to better enforce the quarantine mandates for travelers and also shelter-in-place mandates for local residents not taking it seriously? This is a really interesting issue. I think we're going to be the first people to actually be prosecuting one of these cases. I think we have a case today, and I can't go into details, but I think we've made our first arrest, and it was put together with another charge, but we are already working together. Our office is working very closely with the police, discussing how we can do these things. So let's see what else we have here. How can the county work with local businesses to create more resilience in the future against unseen events such as COVID-19? I think I've had that one before. Hang on one second here. Let me just take a look and see if there's other questions. With the ever-increasing property tax bills not sustainable for many residents, what ideas do you have to shape the county government to operate within its means, considering employee costs are the largest expense? And I read the current mayor is proposing another large bond issue. These are different times than we've ever had, and we're going to come out of these times with kind of a different time. We're going to have to look at things a little bit differently. I think we're going to have to look at things a lot differently. One of the things we're going to start needing really to work with people and work with the community to make things better. There was a cost of government committee, and they have some great ideas. I don't know of any of those ideas. I think we're going to start needing to look at those. We had, we have procurement issues. We make procurement contracts. I think we're going to need to change the way we make those contracts. I was saying this from the very get-go. We bought about 100 computers in the last year, and because of the county procurement laws, we had to go through the procurement code, and those computers ended up costing probably a little bit more than you or I can buy them on Amazon if we were just buying one. I think we're going to need to work on changing our contracts, thinking things through differently. I think we're going to have to look at really working on public-private partnerships. I think we can't take anything off the table. Things that we may not have thought of in the past, we're going to have to look at. One of the things I realize on this island, I've worked on a lot of different community action groups. I helped start the Pahoa Weed and Seed, our CERT team, which is Citizens Emergency Response Teams. There's so many different things. VASH, Visitors Aloha Society of Hawaii. Some of the groups that I've helped start, people always told us, oh, you can't do those things because this isn't going to work. They told us in Pahoa that you can't get those people to even look in the same direction. It was easy. You find what is meaningful to people. And in Pahoa, it was everybody in Pahoa wanted a better future for their kids. They wanted a safe community for their kids. That was 20 years ago. The business has changed. But what really I'm trying to get at is it takes people working together. And on this island, because we oftentimes lack resources, we've had to work together and team up to do things together to make a difference. And I really think that is what we're going to have to do in the future, is we're going to need to work in partnerships to make a difference. And with that, let me just kind of squint in here. How is just crime on the Big Island? Robberies, auto thefts, etc. So let me take this question. Someone's asking about how I'd address crime. So we have been addressing crime for the last 7 years. I've been a prosecutor for 27 years. And, one of the problems that I have right now is that our jails are double full of what they should be. They're bursting at the seams. And so what the approach that we took was how to think more proactively than just being reactive. One of my favorite quotes is Wayne Gretzky. He says, a great hockey player doesn't skate to where the puck is, but to where the puck is going to be. And so we focused a lot of time, a lot of energy on juvenile justice and trying to make a difference. To lock a kid up in Hawaii, it costs about $200,000 a year. And that's kind of crazy. When you think about the recidivism rate, the rate in which they reoffend is like 75%. We've worked on programs, restorative justice. We've worked on other things that have about a 90-something% success rate with like a 5% recidivism rate. And it's cost us almost nothing. Our juvenile crime rate in the last 7 years has gone down by over 50% on this island. We know that those are the future criminals. And so, yes, I understand about the problems that we have with crimes on this island, and it seems like they're a lot worse than they are. But a lot more people are now paying attention to what we've seen for my whole career. And so we need to pay attention to crime. We need to pay attention to make sure our community is safe and healthy. And I'm not going to, move away from the thoughts that I've had there. I know we've put a lot of attention into the roots of crime, domestic violence and drugs and other things. So we're going to keep on paying attention to those. And since we're we're on crime, I'm just going to finish off, I guess, with one of my favorite quotes, a quote from a guy named Sir Robert Peel. Sir Robert Peel is the father of modern day policing. He's the guy in London, England, who they named the police after, the Bobbies or the Peelers. Sir Robert Peel said this: the police are the public are the police, with the police being the only members of society that do what's incumbent upon every citizen. And it's really pertinent to these times right now if you think about that. The police are the only people that are paid to do what's incumbent upon every citizen. If we want a safe, if we want a healthy community, it's all of our responsibilities. As with this COVID-19, it's our responsibility to, protect not just yourselves, but your family, my family, and our friends. So take these rules really seriously. I thank you for allowing me to come talk. Hi, Gail. I see Gail Takaki is now watching. She's an amazing woman who's been really at the head of our Next Tech program, working with STEM-based kids. But anyhow, I'll finish off with that. I just want to thank you all for paying attention, listening. I hope to do these more often. I'll get better at doing these FaceTimes, these live feeds. My first time. So keep on sending the questions. If you haven't been to the website, please go to mitchroth.org. We have a little survey there. We're trying to figure out how people can, make a difference and give us ideas, because I don't have all the answers. I don't think anybody has all the answers. But if we listen to each other, if we work together with each other, and we make this a community for all of us, we're going to get out of this safe, we're going to get out of it healthy, and we're going to be able to rebound and get back our prosperity probably better than any place else in the world, because that's what we have here. So thank you for listening. Again, aloha.